This panel has brought together 4 people from different backgrounds, which to me is ultimately the true definition of building a culture. So
one of the powerful moments was the power of the pause.
Oh my, did you hear when he said that?
Come on. Say it again, Jamal.
I'm gonna
say
borrow
it again.
that. I'm going to borrow
say it again. Say it again. For the record.
The problem's in the pattern, but the power is in the pause.
Yes.
I'm Dr. Stacia Thompson. I'm the Executive Director of the Charlie Finks Foundation. Glad to be here.
Hi, I'm Nathan Lesnowski. I'm Concurrency's Chief Technology Officer. Glad to be here.
Hi, my name is Keyshawn Blackstone. I'm the founder of Play by Take One. It's definitely a pleasure to be here.
My name is Adam Craner with Carbless Cocktails. I'm happy to be here.
So what brings us here today, well, me personally brings me here is want to share our insights on building a culture. I was the moderator for today's panel where me and 3 other amazing founders of companies have came together and we decided to drop some gems here at the Lead the Movement conference here in Milwaukee. It's definitely a pleasure being here for the fact that, we have a big lack of culture discussion in today's generation. So to be able to drop gems here in Milwaukee has definitely been an honor.
For me personally, one of the coolest things was just the panel in general. All completely different backgrounds, but at the end of the day, talking about one deliverable, and that's culture, and just hearing how everybody's doing it differently. And at the end of the day, it's the same end result of building something that people want to be a part of, and helping, build more leaders in the community. And I just loved having a large spread of different personalities and leadership styles that really boils down to the same thing at the end of the day.
Yeah, so I am so happy and elated to be chosen for this panel. Not only do I feel like, people have come up and said you dropped some gems, but I felt like I got some from the other esteemed panelists that I was blessed to be with today. I think I found some new friends through this panel. So, they gave their LinkedIn's and their socials. I'm going to see your daughter in her car. You're going to see me and my son at the basketball games. But I think what is being done here today, not just our panel, but this entire Lead the Movement conference is so necessary for the culture. If we hear that tagline right all the time, it's so necessary but it is so necessary. The work that's being done here today, the conversations that are being had, the panels and the things that are being shared. Even the person before us that presented, the techniques on breathing in and breathing out and getting rid of the negative energy, like I did it along the side as we were waiting, on the balance to come in. So I'm just happy to be here. So glad I can be a part, of this movement today.
I really appreciated that the panel conversation was a cross-section of people with very diverse backgrounds, different life experiences, things that made us who we are. And I thought that was a great way for us to just even represent the very nature of the conference itself. Like, the conference itself is a cross-section. Like, it represents people coming from music, from entertainment, from tech, from business, and bringing all that together to represent something that, like, it starts to cross some boundaries. And, you could say, like, is that missing the, are you missing your target audience? But I think in a sense, like, it's broadening who the target audience is. It's trying to, break the mold. And I really appreciate the boldness of doing something like that. Of not just being like, oh, it's just another IT conference or just another, entertainment conference. No. Goal here is to kind of break the mold across the individuals that are active in our community and help them to be able to learn something from each other. And I appreciate that both as speakers, and I appreciate it just in the context of how they put this conference together.
I think lastly, this panel has brought together 4 people from different backgrounds, which to me is ultimately the true definition of building a culture. So I think without this, this is a live example of how you build the culture, just from sharing common knowledge, missions, and morals and ethics to seeing where we could find commonalities to work together and build up and build out.
Yes, what a great session, folks. I really appreciate your input. I think, as you said, Robert, one of the powerful moments was the power of the pause.
Oh my! Did you hear when he said that?
Come on. Say it again,
I'm
Jamal.
gonna
Say it
borrow
again.
that. I am going to borrow
Say it again. Say it again. For the record.
The problem's in the pattern, but the power is in the pause.
Yes, the
Yes.
problem's in the pattern, but the power's in the pause. That pause, which I say 7-second pause, can change everything.
Yeah.
Can change everything. I think this was a great interaction, great beginning discussion, because I think someone said it on the panel, we just really touched the crust of the iceberg. We just had a conversation. And I think I heard Carmen say, hey, we can have a whole bunch of intention, but as I always say, intention doesn't resuscitate the victim. We got to be in action. We got to be in motion. And it takes us as advocates in this work, as intentional movers in this work, to truly, truly make it happen.
Yeah, I think you said something that was so powerful. You said DEI, and I think you mentioned, everyone kind of alluded to it. This work is definitely hard work.
Yes.
And has to do with really humanizing the lived experiences of all of those who are showing up in the space. And I think when you talk about hard work, you said something that was so powerful about, that type of work is not rewarded. It doesn't give job advancement. Like how do we encourage, how do we create spaces where organizations, companies, maybe do create some type of scale or value system that rewards people for these skills?
I would almost offer that the value system has to change.
Yeah. What success looks like, what leadership looks like has to change, right?
Yeah.
Because being a leader is not just about getting bottom line results. Being a leader is being able to inspire people, motivate people, and you have to get below the iceberg to understand what motivates people, what drives people, what are their values, what are their beliefs, what's their currency, right? In order to get the best out of people, so they decide to give discretionary effort to the job, not just the bare minimum, right? If they value and feel that they're being valued, they're going to give more and do their work because they love the work, not because they're just getting a paycheck at the end of the day.
I think there's an assumption about the iceberg. Can you explain what below the iceberg means?
So the iceberg, if you take the visual of an iceberg, most of the time when you see an iceberg in the water, you only see a small portion of it. That's what you see, and from what we see, we make an assumption, ooh, that's an iceberg. It doesn't look big. But the big part of the iceberg is usually underneath. And the reason I use this scenario is we judge what we see. We judge what we believe we know. But the true essence of who we are comes through a relationship, comes through understanding what our values are, comes through learning that. So the big part of the iceberg is unknown until you create the space, safe place, to your point, that allows me to share.
I want to go back to what Sherry said earlier about the way things are looked at corporately. And I think about it from a mindset perspective and the way that we view life. I once heard a wise man say, stop giving CPR to dead situations. And so the way you view life is going to be the way that you invest in what brings life into your organization. And so a dead situation may be your forward-thinking team. I'm not saying any team is insignificant, but a lot of times when it comes to DEI or mental wellness within an organization, that's the least funded. And so what are you breathing life into, and how do you view life, and how do you view value amongst your employees? And so when I think about the way leaders need to learn to view life, that will reduce turnover. And it's actually saving, since some people only respond to data, it's actually saving you revenue. When you have a view of human life, and as Robert said on the panel, lived experience.
Absolutely.
Yeah, you can tie. Yeah, you can tie those characteristics of compassion and empathy and care to retention of employees. People stay. Like, people will stay where they feel treated well, right?
Where they feel safe.
Start
Where they
driving
feel
more
safe.
focus.
Where
Right?
they feel heard.
Yeah.
I always say I think it's 4 or 5 things. Every employee wants to feel valued. They want to know you care. They want to know they matter, that they are heard, and they can trust you. That's only going to happen if I know you below the iceberg.
But that's humanity in a nutshell, right?
Absolutely.
That's being human. That's humanness. And when we think about, if we're talking about specifically corporate America, how intentional are you about your internal outreach. There should be a pipeline for everybody, whether somebody's sweeping your floor, and there's no shame if that's where you started, but there should be some sort of pipeline, some sort of track that allows people to organically advance and develop skill sets that will allow them to move naturally through the organization. Take it a step further, this is, again, where I'm hooking it into language. E-learning platforms. Are we creating e-learning modules internally for our own people that speaks to the way that not only they receive information, but also speaks to the human spirit? And what does that look like? And there is a lot of work that we are able to do in the L&D learning space, in the communication space that speaks to these. But it always comes down to leadership. Who is at the helm, right? Who is at the helm and their mindset? Because if their mindset is this isn't important, it's not going to be important. And if they have people behind them as leaders that also have that mindset that this is not important, or hey, we just have to do this to appease and to, maybe hire a couple of quote unquote token people, if we're keeping it real, then that's what you're going to see in your organization. And I do think that now we're seeing that backlash. We're seeing it out in the world. People are leaving. To your point, the new millennials that are coming in, they're saying
X or Y,
whatever they're called, whatever we're at this point, right? It's a different game, and employers are really going to have to look at their internal systems and processes and their mindsets, who they have at the helm leading these groups.
I know. I had a question because I respect all. I think you've been in this space for 20 some odd years. I often so for somebody, in the previous life, before I left higher education, I was serving as a dean. And in those higher education and education, more than any other space, is one of the most politicized spaces where you have to have the most education, where politics are everywhere and you get paid the lowest amount of money. But oftentimes, I was stuck because for somebody in this space who cares about diversity, equity, inclusion, but then when we're sitting in boardrooms with presidents who care about bottom lines, how can diversity, equity, and inclusion leaders be in those spaces and be true to their missions, to their visions, without compromising the values and the goals? Or how can we align our desires and this new culture with the culture or the desires, the goals of the institutions or the organizations that are being led by people who are just looking at bottom numbers?
Yeah, I know Nick and I talked about this. I mean, it's all about that business case and being able to articulate that business case in a way that makes sense to leaders. You have to understand their language. Again, talking their currency, right? If bottom line is what they're focused on, show them how DEI impacts that bottom line. You do have to absolutely align the DEI goals to the organizational goals, because you can show them that by doing this is going to advance our organization's goals too. So it's a way to help facilitate and drive everyone in the same direction, right? Everyone's got the same goals at the end of the day. You may approach it in different ways and be tackling it from different angles, but it's going to impact, for example, when I worked in healthcare, and our focus was around, market share, right? Getting more patients. We have to make sure that we're not just getting more patients, but are we focusing on LGBTQIA patients, African American patients, Latino patients, all of those. And that takes DEI focus to help reach those different populations too. So it's a value add to the strategy, not just an add-on to the strategy.
And keep in mind, from an executive leadership standpoint, if you got any organization that's recruiting in the DE&I space, one of my number one questions is why? And then you want to hear the value system of why. Why do you need this role? Why do you want this? And how does this role tie back to your bottom line? If they can't answer that question for me, then that tells me that role is probably not going to be what I think it's going to be.
Yeah, that's powerful. That's powerful. I think in so many spaces, especially being a DEI leader, right, there's positions sometimes created that do not have the infrastructure for whoever sits in that role, regardless of how educated they are, how passionate they are, to be successful in that space, because there's, like you said, there's nothing underneath there's no structure to support it. So I think that was so powerful what you said, and you guys are so amazing.
It very much is. If it's not, the infrastructure isn't set up, it's showing that this is a temporary position with temporary goals.
And high turnover rate.
Yeah. The temporary goal being to check this box off to appease the board of directors, because they have to answer to a board. And so understanding what's going on, going back to what Sherry said earlier, every opportunity may not be a good opportunity. This may not be money that I want. You know, I told Nick earlier, when I lay my head down, there's opportunities that I don't take because I want to know that's not filthy money for me. If you're just checking a box off, we're not going to waste our time. If you actually want to take this journey, let's get into it and let's go.
Because it's meaningful work.
Yeah.
For us, this is meaningful, necessary, heart and mind work. I think somebody said earlier, I want to go to work and be happy. I want to be happy and excited about the results I'm getting, about the momentum, about the change I'm seeing. And if I can't get that, I'm not interested.
So I'm curious because I'm sitting amongst you all. I realized I had this forget them at like just I come from a younger generation, so I'm just kind of like forget this. I don't have to do this. I don't have to deal with this. I can go have options. How do we empower or those who are saying, hey, I don't want to play these games in corporate settings anymore. I think something you said, I don't longer want to hustle for my work. How do we empower them to do this work and create spaces that they can do the work and also make revenue too?
My line will be for mental health, build mental and spiritual resilience. Because one, I think a lot in this generation, it is still a very much microwave society. This is not going to happen overnight. And the thing about it is everyone wants the 50-mile-per-hour sprint, but no one wants the marathon. It is a marathon. And a lot of times it's like, well, we've been patient enough. How long are we going to wait? When? I can guarantee you, Martin, Malcolm, and the forefathers who started the civil rights movement that DEI was actually built on, let's talk about it, they were very patient and very resilient. You got to build resilience. And when you build resilience, you build in the mindset of a person that says, you know what, I'm going to learn in the process. Now I'm going to come in here and say what I want and get this stuff done. We're actually going to get this stuff done over time because the heart of said leader and the mind of said leader needs to change over time. And I'm not going to change his heart and mind by pointing a finger at him. I can galvanize without gaslighting. That's actually the title to one of my next talks.
How do you speak to the entrepreneur? Because I think some of you are consultants, right? How do they land clients? How do they find clients? How do they monetize their passion that gives their skills in this space?
Well, you lead. I'm big on leading with the value. So if you lead with the value, and I understand also the disadvantage. This is not only on corporate, but on the entrepreneur side, especially generational. My kids are all millennials. So they all grew up on the technology. So the patience they don't have, because Google gives it to you right now. Mama said, look in the dictionary or in the encyclopedia or go find a book and read it. Google give it to you right now. So their thinking is, but why can't you change right now? But you're telling me it's going to take me a year of probation before I go to the next role, but I got it in 6 months. So why come I can't be promoted? So they're willing to ask the uncomfortable questions that me and my generation are, let me be more strategic about it. The best answer I can give you is my son left a corporate job. And I said, did you put your 2-week notice in? And you know what he said? Why would I do that? We had a discussion. They're not willing to bend. Why would I give them 2 more weeks of my time?
How old is your son?
30.
He's my age.
You're like, that sounds about right.
That sounds about right.
Right?
I don't know how many, because here's the thing, and I've worked in higher ed, I've worked in a number of organizations, held very high positions as a young, educated individual, and then got in those seats and was like, it cannot be this hard to help people. And I think for my generation, who I am a millennial, shamelessly, I do ask, but I also come from the deep South where I value hard work, where I value, legacy, so on and so on. And I think, what changed for me. Now I'm a millennial with 3 children myself, and I think remembering working as a dean with two master's degrees, and I just got my EDD, and I was hoping and praying that they would give me a raise to $60,000. And then turn on YouTube and see a 10-year-old kid make $2 million opening toys. And so something happened in me that said, I am begging and I am dealing with, this toxic culture, and I am asking somebody to change who often that I don't have a relationship with. They have a fixed mentality. And I don't have the power, the influence, and the positioning to even have the proper conversations. And everyone around them typically are people who are aliking and sometimes in the same, vision that they have. So why waste my time? And especially when I saw, Timmy on YouTube making $20,000 and I'm begging for 70. And I got $90,000 worth of student loan debt. So, and the truth is, I want to help.
Sense.
Listen, and I want to help people because, like you said, this is hard work.
Yeah.
Can any one of you speak to that?
There's a balance, right? Because I talked about I would do this stuff even if I wasn't getting paid, but that's just me, right? I mean, I enjoy getting paid. Don't get me wrong. I prefer to be paid for the work that I'm doing. But you have to have a balance, right? What you're willing to do, what you're willing to give, and what you're willing to get out of it. But I think you also have an option to vote with your feet. You don't have to stay at a place that doesn't value you. Have you heard that analogy about the price of a water bottle at a grocery store versus the price of a water bottle at an airport versus the price of a water bottle at a concert venue, right? It's the same product, but the environment values it differently. So go where you're valuable. You don't have to stay at the convenience store. You don't have to sit there and, 99 cents for a bottle of water. You can be a $4 bottle of water.
Come on, $4.
Be a $4 bottle of water.
Yeah. That's what in mindset as well, because bring it back to your son. I think where our older generation is more afraid to lose the job and the comfort, right? That paycheck, that your stability, right? Where now the 30-year-olds, your son is coming in and saying, what do you mean 2 weeks? I don't need a safe face. They needed a safe face with me. Bye. I'm a $4 bottle of water, and you're trying you're trying to sell me for $1.25. I'm not having it, right? And as parents or mentors or whatever, we're standing back. We're like, oh my word! But there's something that we can learn from that, which is not only the boldness, but also understanding your worth, and also dismantling all that BS within the system that taught us that we weren't worth the $4, that we're not worth the $4.
It's like a lot of imposter
that it's
syndrome
a journey to the $4.
Yeah.
Well, and I think that's where the balance comes in, because unlike me, the 30-year-olds, research says a lot of them are still living home with parents or still asking to borrow money from parents to make ends meet. So I didn't have that option, so I just had to make it work. But what is that balance? Because there is wisdom in saying, okay, maybe I need to ride this out until I do have a plan, right? What does that balance look like? And maybe, I invest, my 9 to 5 here, but I am a firm believer, work your 9 to 5 and work on your dream while everybody else is still asleep.
Let your 9 to 5
keep receipts of what you're doing.
Yes. And that was the best advice given to me.
You have to keep your receipts. If you're producing and you're delivering, keep track of that.
Yes.
You have to back up hey, I deserve this because look at what I've done, and you can't just hope and pray that they're going to give you a raise or give you a promotion. You have to demonstrate that, yes, these are the things they can't refute. That way that you deserve that next step.
Yeah, and I think also the balance is entitlement. The next generation behind me, research says that, this, I think it's YZ, there is this sense of entitlement, I deserve this, and you need to, and it's no, you don't deserve anything. You need to, yes, we value you, but you still have to prove that you are an asset and you're adding value to what's being built.
See, but that's what happens when you give everybody an award.
The key
when
is
they don't deserve
value.
it, you know?
If you don't know the value you're offering, then you're just going to go in and get what you believe you need. I love the confidence, but we got to lead with the value.
And also mindset. When you believe it,
It
other
is.
people will too.
Yes.
I'm telling you,
Yes.
the doors that have opened for me are crazy because I believe it. I descend from a
telling you.
line of kingdoms and queendoms. If they got it, that inheritance is mine.
Yeah.
And when you lead with that energy, you will reap what you sow.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. When I'll never forget, I was working with a client, and the client, and this was where I truly kind of sort of saw my value in a different way. Well, the client asked me to put together a 2-day workshop. So I put the pricing together for a 2-day workshop. So they said, we got your proposal, but how much for the second day? Game changer. I said, double that.
Yeah.
Because I'm thinking I did it already. I said, I'm sorry, I made a mistake. Double that. Game changer. I saw my value even beyond that from there on in. But up until that, it was kind of hitting and missing. But after that, it's like, here's the rate, here's the proposal. I don't blink. This is what it is. I'm good.
And when you see that and you have that growth mindset, you take yourself off the clearance rack. Even in Neiman Marcus, they have a
absolutely.
clearance rack. And that clearance rack, you see what? More people around that versus in the main part of the store. When you take yourself off the clearance rack, even though this is hard work, less people have access to you. And that way you don't burn out. You see
Absolutely.
my LinkedIn? Burnout, codependency, people pleasing. We got to tackle the root of that. Why do you make yourself available to everybody for everything? And that air of desperation will put you on the clearance rack, and everyone can grab on you and get a hold of you.
Mm-hmm.
It's like, no, we're not in the clearance rack. We're actually in the most expensive section because the value proposition for this is sky high. This is actually eternal value. If you think about the hard work and heavy.
Oh, yeah.
We can't sell ourselves short of what the value is of DEI. So, ask for what you deserve, what it takes, because it is important. It's not clearance rack work. It's not clearance rack.
Definitely not. Definitely not.
That's powerful. I think knowing our value is important. Being able to share our value, not being afraid. I think when I talk to a lot of people, and especially some of the most educated, great-hearted people, have a hard time, even in conversation, with expressing their needs and their desires in corporate spaces. So practically, I know because this is your area, how can individuals who have done the work, how can they express their needs without being timid and knowing their value, but also expressing to their employers, hey, this is what I need, this is my value, and sticking to it without doing it with fear.
I think you got to be okay with failure. You got to be okay with it not working. So you didn't get a yes. It's not the end of the world, right? You always got time to come back and try again. I think we have to stop thinking that it's just a one-shot deal, right? You got opportunities to continue to prove ourselves and get the right answer that we want. Or you go somewhere else and ask somebody else for that answer. It doesn't have to be in the current place where you're working. It might be another place that's willing to meet your needs. But I think if you're able to clearly communicate what your value is, what you can give, what you've done, what you're able to prove, what more can you do? If they don't see it, then maybe there's a different place you want to be.
Right. And always leverage that. Even if it's a no today, I translate that as not now. And always remember that even if I get a no today, they're still watching. So what I tell clients is, don't then become demotivated. Don't then shrink yourself. Don't then disengage because they're paying attention. We may have said no, but it really meant not now. And now it really means a no because we now see who you are and how you deal with bad decisions and how you deal with when things don't go your way. And we need a leader that can be resilient in those times and continue show up in the best kind of way, continue lead, we watch that. They're paying attention to that. And so I'm real big on whatever you do, stay in the game. I can be fully in, and I got 4 interviews going.
You know what I say on top of that too is I always tell people it's not who you know, it's who knows you. That makes sense. So if people know, like now that you're on the radar screen, whether or not you got what you wanted, they know that you're looking for it now. So the next time something comes up, they might think of you, right? So you've made yourself known, you've made your wants known. A lot of times the problem that we have is that we don't tell people what we want. We tell people what we don't want a lot of times. We're really good at saying what we don't want, but we don't tell people what we want. So now that people are aware of it, you have more visibility now. I think if you planted a seed, right? So that if an opportunity comes, the more you tell people what you want, the more opportunity you may have. Because they might know somebody to talk to somebody, and that might change for you.
If you have performance reviews, always tell them what your goals are, whether they ask or not. Otherwise, as a leader, I'm going to plan you where I think my business need is. That may not be your plan.
To piggyback on what Sherry and Nick were saying, also the receipts of what you've accomplished. When there's the KPIs, that's what they onboarded you for. When you've exceeded that, you can show them that you've exceeded that. And then when there is, or if there is perceived rejection, it can redirect you actually to a position that you weren't even looking for, but a position that would actually pay you double. That's actually happened to me before in the past, where it's like, I wanted this thing so bad, and God shut it down, and I just could not understand why, but it redirected me to something that actually paid me double what going to pay me. So you just never understand.
Absolutely.
Like he said, people are watching. What is your reaction? What's your response? And that's where we pause and say, wait a minute. What's at work here that I cannot see, that I'm out of control of?
I think also how you address, how you treat yourself, how you show up. One thing that I talk to a lot of my clients about is about building your own brand. And building your own brand and the power of that. Absolutely. And leveraging that. Because people are looking to hire people with entrepreneurial spirits. If you show up and they know that you have a grind, you have a hustle, you have established yourself as some brand that will add value to what they're doing, they will be willing to offer you more because they see your value, because you're always sharing what you value. And so they're looking at your brand and asking, how can I take that and infuse it into my space? Yeah.
Literal mic drop.
Mic drop.
That's good.
I think this has been amazing, guys.
Yes, very amazing.
Awesome.
Very good.
And I'm so excited. I was so honored to meet all of you.
Great to meet you. Thank you for coming.
Yeah, this was really good.
Yes, you did.
I got a whole new family and a new network.
Yes,
Let's go.
me too.
You
Oh,
know,
this is
let's
so
go.
great.
This is good.
And honestly, thank you for having the tough conversations. And when I had the opportunity to do this, like, he's very much, we're cut from the same cloth. We're very straight up people, you know. And I loved that he gave us an opportunity to just be straight up and to have the uncomfortable conversations that more people should be having. And because that's really the only way to do DE&I right, if you're going to be doing it, is to have the uncomfortable conversations. And it's been amazing to learn from you guys in this short amount of time. So thank you. I'm just like in awe of just everything. I was like, oh, that's so good. Oh, that's so good. Oh, that's so good. With everything. And I just look forward to learning more about you guys and what you guys are going to keep creating out in this space in the world for the rest of us.
I'm excited to connect with you guys, connect on a deeper level.
Yeah.
I'm glad we got to share space together. This was just the beginning.
Oh, yeah.
Absolutely.
So,
All right.
as I always say, let's get into it.
Let's go.
That's right.
All right.
Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. And don't forget to hit that notification bell for more amazing content that we're going to be putting out. And don't forget, you can change your circle to change your life.